You've been told you're not enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough to have what you want, that you need to accept reality as it is, solid, fixed, unchangeable, that you're stuck with the hand you were dealt, the family you were born into, the circumstances that shaped you. And maybe, just maybe, if you work hard enough, if you prove yourself enough, if you become enough, reality might finally let you in. But here's what nobody tells you. Reality isn't something you discover, it's something you create. And I don't mean that in some fluffy manifestation board kind of way. I mean it in the most literal, scientific, quantum mechanical sense possible. You are not observing a world that exists independently of you. You are collapsing wave functions with every thought, every focus, every moment of awareness. You are not living inside a static universe. You are generating, right now, in this very moment, your own sphere of existence. And the craziest part, the part that changes everything? Your childhood taught you this, the trauma, the neglect, the moments when nobody saw you. They didn't break you. They trained you. They forced you to become what most people never learn to be, a conscious observer, creating reality instead of passively receiving it. Let me tell you something. When I was 13 years old, I was thrown out of Harvard University, literally. A security guard looked at me and said, "Go away," like Dorothy at the gates of Emerald City. I didn't belong there. I knew it. Everyone knew it. But here's the kicker. That rejection, that moment of being told I wasn't enough to even walk through the door, it led me to discover something about the nature of reality itself, something that would eventually help me understand consciousness at a level most scientists still can't grasp. And that boy who got thrown out, he didn't just prove everyone wrong. He unlocked a secret about how the universe actually works. So if you've ever been told you don't belong, if you've ever felt invisible, rejected, not chosen, I want you to really hear this. That wasn't the universe closing a door. That was the universe forcing you to become an observer, to create your own reality instead of waiting for someone else to give you permission to exist in theirs. Ready to go deeper? Because what I'm about to share will completely reframe everything you thought you knew about your past, your pain, and your power. Let me take you back to where this all began. I grew up in a house where nobody finished high school. My father was a professional gambler. My mother, well, a school principal once told her she wasn't fit to be a parent. We didn't have family dinners. We didn't have support. What we had was chaos, violence, and the constant message that I was on my own. Most people would call that trauma, and it was. But here's what happened because of it. I wasn't allowed to stay home. So I went into the woods, deep into the swamps and creek beds, places my parents refused to drive me to, because they didn't believe in what I was doing. No trail was too muddy, no forest too dense, and in those solitary expeditions something began to shift in how I saw the world. I started asking questions, big questions, the kind that made teachers uncomfortable, like, if God made the world, who made God? And does this place exist if no one is observing it? I'd stand in a patch of forest I'd just discovered and wonder, was this real before I saw it? Did it exist in some objective sense, or did my observation somehow bring it into being? Now, most kids get told to stop asking such ridiculous questions, and I did too. Teachers laughed. My science project, trying to understand if I could alter the genetic structure of chicken embryos, was called impossible before I even started. But here's where it gets interesting. At 13, I decided to go to Harvard, not to apply, not to take a tour, but to find real scientists and learn from them directly. I took a bus, then a trolley, walked through Cambridge until I found the biology building and walked straight in through the front door. And that's when the security guard stopped me. "Go away," he said. Just like that. I didn't look like I belonged. I didn't have credentials. I was just a kid from a broken home who thought he could walk into Harvard and... What? Talk to Nobel Prize nominees about DNA? So I left, but then, and this is where everything changes, I walked around to the back of the building. There was another entrance, a side door, no guard, and I went in. I wandered the halls until I found a lab. Inside was a man doing something with microscopes and specimens. He looked ordinary. I thought he was a janitor, honestly, but I was desperate to talk to anyone who actually worked with living cells. So I started asking him questions about DNA, about nucleoproteins, about whether consciousness could influence biological systems. And this man, this person I assumed was building maintenance, he didn't laugh. He didn't tell me I was too young or that my questions were ridiculous. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. Your parents must be very proud of you. Nobody had ever said that to me before. Nobody. Turns out that janitor was Stephen Kuffler, one of the most brilliant neuroscientists of his generation, a man who would later be nominated for the Nobel Prize. And he didn't just tolerate my questions. He invited me into his lab. He introduced me to his colleagues. He saw something in me that nobody else had bothered to look for. Now pause with that for a moment. The front door was locked. The guard said no. The system rejected me. But the back door? The back door led to a Nobel nominee who would change the entire trajectory of my life. This is not a metaphor. This is how reality actually works. Most people see a closed door and think, the universe is telling me I'm not meant for this. But what if I told you the universe is actually testing whether you're willing to create your own entrance? Whether you'll wait for permission or generate your own opportunity? Rejection isn't the end, it's the redirection. But here's the part nobody talks about. You have to be willing to walk around to the back door. You have to be willing to keep observing, keep asking, keep moving even when the front entrance slams in your face. Because here's the truth. The boy who got thrown out of Harvard? He went on to work with some of the greatest scientific minds of his generation. He published groundbreaking research. He developed theories about consciousness and reality that would later become the foundation of biocentric universe theory. But none of that would have happened if he'd accepted the guard's version of reality. So here's my question for you. How many front doors have you accepted as final? How many times have you let someone else's no become your reality? Because what I learned in those woods, in that lab, in every moment of rejection, was this. Reality responds to the observer. And if you change what you're observing, you change what becomes real. Ready to understand the science behind this? Let's dive in. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Reality, the world you think is out there, solid and objective, is not what you think it is. At the quantum level, nothing is fixed until it's observed. This isn't philosophy, this is physics, this is the observer effect, and it's one of the most revolutionary discoveries in scientific history. Let me break it down. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in what's called a superposition, a state of infinite possibility. They're not here or there. They're everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, existing as waves of probability. But the moment you observe them, the moment consciousness focuses on them, the wave function collapses, potential becomes actual. Possibility becomes reality. The particle chooses where to be based on observation. Now, most scientists will tell you this only applies to tiny particles, electrons, photons, subatomic things. But what if I told you this principle scales up? What if your entire experience of reality is a continuous collapse of wave functions based on where you place your awareness? This is biocentric theory, and it suggests something radical. The universe doesn't create consciousness, consciousness creates the universe. Let me tell you why this matters for you. When you were a child, neglected, unseen, told you didn't matter, you learned something profound without even realizing it. You learned that nobody else's observation of you could define your reality. You had to become your own observer. You had to generate your own sphere of existence. That pain, that isolation, it forced you to develop the exact skill quantum physics describes. Conscious observation as an act of creation. Think about it. When nobody sees you, when nobody validates you, when nobody tells you what's real or possible, you have to decide for yourself. You have to ask, does this place exist if I'm the only one observing it? And in asking that question, you become the observer who collapses your own wave function. You weren't broken by neglect, you were trained in quantum consciousness. But here's where most people get stuck. They think observation is passive. They think, I'll just watch the world and see what happens. No, observation in the quantum sense is active, it's focused, it's coherent. Your awareness doesn't just witness reality, it sculpts it. And this is where emotion comes in. Because here's what nobody tells you about manifestation, about creating reality, about all of it. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Your emotional state, your vibrational frequency, your level of coherence. That's what determines which version of reality collapses into your experience. When you're in fear, doubt, unworthiness, you're observing through a lens of lack, and the field mirrors that back to you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's precise. You get what you focus on, you get what you are. But when you shift, when you move from "I need to discover what's possible" to "I am creating what's possible," everything changes. The field responds to that coherence. Doors open, opportunities appear, the back entrance reveals itself. This is not magic, this is mechanics. Now, let me connect this to something even deeper. Because understanding that you create reality through observation is just the first layer. The next layer is understanding what you actually are as an observer. Most people think, I am a body with consciousness. But what if it's the other way around? What if you are consciousness experiencing a body? Consciousness observing itself through the temporary form of a human life. This is where things get profound. Every creature on Earth, every bird, every insect, every animal generates its own sphere of existence. A screech owl in a tree hollow perceives a completely different reality than you do. Its world is ultraviolet light, sound frequencies you can't hear, spatial awareness you can't fathom. That owl's universe is as real to it as yours is to you. But here's the thing. Whose reality is more valid? Whose universe is the real one? The answer is both, and neither. Because there is no singular objective reality existing independently of observation. There are only spheres of existence, each one generated by the consciousness perceiving it. You are not living in the universe. You are generating a universe through the act of observation. And this changes everything. Because if reality is not something you discover, but something you create, then your past doesn't define you. Your circumstances don't limit you. The rejections, the trauma, the people who said you weren't enough, they were operating in their sphere of existence, not yours. You are the observer. You are the one collapsing wave functions. You are the one deciding what becomes real. So here's the real question. What are you observing? Where is your awareness focused? Because wherever you place your attention, whatever you observe with emotional coherence, that's what will collapse into your reality. But before we go further, let me tell you a story that'll show you just how deep this goes. A story about a dragonfly, a blacksmith, and the most elusive quality of existence. When I was young, there was a man in my town named O'Donnell. He was a blacksmith, one of those old-world craftsmen who could shape metal into almost anything. And one day I asked him to make me something. A dragonfly. Not a real one, obviously, a metal sculpture. I wanted it to look exactly like the dragonflies I'd spent hours watching in the swamps. Every detail perfect, every angle precise. I was obsessed with these creatures. The way they moved, the way they seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, the way their wings caught light in a way that felt almost otherworldly. O'Donnell took on the project, and let me tell you, this man was an artist. Weeks later, he handed me a metal dragonfly so detailed, so perfectly crafted that if you looked at it without knowing, you might think it was real. The wings, the segmented body, the delicate legs, every physical feature was there. But here's what hit me when I held it. Something was missing. Something fundamental. Something I couldn't quite name at the time, but felt in every cell of my being. That metal dragonfly had the form, it had the structure, it had the appearance of life. But it didn't have the experience of being a dragonfly. It didn't have the inner world, the consciousness, the felt sense of existence that makes a living creature alive. O'Donnell had captured the shape. But he couldn't capture what it felt like to be that dragonfly, to perceive the world through compound eyes. to navigate air currents with instincts evolved over millions of years, to have an inner experience, a sphere of existence that was utterly unique. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Life is not about form. Life is about experience. Consciousness is not what emerges from matter. Consciousness is what gives matter meaning. You can replicate the structure, you can rebuild the parts, you can freeze shapes into metal, into equations, into DNA sequences, but you cannot replicate the elusive quality of subjective experience, the what-it-is-likeness of being. And this applies to you. See, most people think they are their circumstances, their body, their history, their trauma. They think, I am the product of what happened to me. But that's like saying the metal dragonfly is alive just because it looks like one. You are not your form. You are not the shape that was beaten into you by a difficult childhood. You are not the structure built by neglect and pain. Those things happen to the form, the body, the personality, the external circumstances. But they didn't touch what you actually are. You are the experience, the consciousness, the observer inside the form. And just like that dragonfly, just like every living creature on Earth, you generate your own sphere of existence, your own reality, your own universe of perception and meaning. Now here's where this gets even more interesting. I used to set traps in those woods. Small cages designed to catch animals so I could study them. I was curious, hungry to understand life in all its forms, but one day, I found all my traps destroyed, broken apart, deliberately dismantled. Someone had found them and smashed them to pieces. At first, I was furious. These were my experiments, my tools for learning. But then something shifted in me. I started thinking about what it must feel like to be the animal in that trap, the fear, the confusion, the desperate instinct to escape. For the first time, I wasn't just observing from the outside. I was trying to feel what it was like on the inside. I was attempting to step into another creature's sphere of existence, to see the world not just as I experienced it, but as they did. And that's when compassion became more than a concept. It became an act of consciousness, an act of recognizing that every being, human, animal, insect, is generating their own valid reality, their own universe of experience. You know what this means for your pain. It means the people who hurt you, who neglected you, who told you that you weren't enough. They were operating in their sphere of existence, their limited, fear-based, unconscious reality. They couldn't see you because they were barely conscious observers themselves. But you are consciousness aware of itself. You are the observer who can step outside the form, outside the trauma, outside the inherited stories about who you're supposed to be. The dragonfly doesn't know it's generating a sphere of existence. It just does. But you have the awareness to know you're doing it. And in that knowing, you have the power to change what you're creating. Your reality is not their reality. Your sphere of existence is not determined by anyone else's observation of you. So the question becomes, what sphere are you generating? What world are you collapsing into being with your focus, your emotion, your coherent observation? Because here's the truth, and this is where everything we've talked about comes together. Your childhood didn't break you. It broke the illusion that you needed anyone else's permission to exist. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's go back to the beginning, back to the pain. You were a child and you were invisible. Nobody saw you. Nobody believed in you. Nobody told you that you mattered, that you were capable, that you had a right to dream big and reach for impossible things. Maybe your parents were too broken to see you. Maybe they were addicts or abusers or just emotionally absent. Maybe teachers dismissed you. Maybe classmates laughed. Maybe every authority figure in your life communicated, directly or indirectly, that you didn't belong in spaces of success, intelligence, achievement. And you internalized that. You thought, if nobody sees me, maybe I'm not real. If nobody believes in me, maybe I'm not worthy. If nobody chooses me, maybe I don't deserve to be chosen. You learned to make yourself small, to stay quiet, to not ask for too much, to accept the crumbs of attention and validation when they came, and to never expect the feast. That's the wound, the deep childhood wound that so many of us carry, and I'm not here to tell you it wasn't real. I'm not here to bypass your pain with spiritual platitudes. That pain was real. That rejection was real. That neglect shaped you in ways that still echo through your life today. But here's what nobody tells you about that wound. It gave you a gift most people never receive. A gift that, once you understand it, changes everything about how you see your past and your power. That wound forced you to become an observer. See, children who grow up seen, validated, supported, they learn that reality is given to them. They learn that their place in the world is determined by external authorities. Parents, teachers, society. These forces tell them what's real, what's possible, what they're allowed to be. But you didn't get that luxury. Nobody told you what was real. Nobody gave you permission. Nobody handed you a pre-made reality and said, "Here, this is yours." So what did you do? You had to create your own. You had to generate your own sphere of existence. You had to become the observer who decides what's real, what's possible, what's worth pursuing. Not because anyone else validated it, but because you chose it. This is not a small thing. This is quantum consciousness in action. When I walked around to the back door of Harvard, I wasn't following a path someone laid out for me. I was creating my own path. I was observing a reality where back doors existed, where Nobel nominees talked to 13-year-olds, where impossible things became possible because I refused to accept someone else's version of what was real. And you've been doing this your whole life without realizing it. Every time you pursued something despite being told it wasn't for you, you were collapsing wave functions. Every time you created meaning in the absence of external validation, you were generating your own sphere of existence. Every time you kept going when nobody believed in you, you were proving that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. Your neglect didn't make you weak, it made you a conscious creator. But here's the paradox, and this is important. Most trauma survivors spend their lives trying to get back what was taken from them, trying to find the validation they never received, trying to prove to the people who rejected them that they were wrong. I get it. I stood in front of my science fair project imagining the moment when the teachers who laughed at me would have to congratulate me. I wanted that vindication, that recognition, that external proof that I was enough. And when I won, when my mother, the one the principal said wasn't fit to be a parent, had to stand there and receive congratulations, it felt good. Of course it did. But here's what I learned. That validation didn't make me real. It didn't complete me. It didn't fill the wound, because the wound was never about them. It was about me learning to see myself, to observe myself, to become the authority in my own life instead of waiting for someone else to grant me permission to exist. The moment you stop needing external validation, the moment you stop trying to prove your reality to people still operating in their limited sphere of existence, is the moment you become truly freed. Because here's the quantum truth. The field responds to your internal state, not your need for approval, not your desire to be seen, your coherence, your alignment, your unwavering observation of the reality you're choosing to create. When you're still trying to prove yourself, you're observing through the lens of, "I'm not enough yet." And the field collapses that into your experience. You get more situations where you have to prove yourself, more rejection, more closed doors. But when you shift to, "I am the observer creating my reality," when you own that power, that authority, that quantum creative force, everything changes. Doors don't just open, they appear where there were walls. People don't just believe in you. The right people show up at exactly the right time, like Kuffler did for me. Opportunities don't just come. They multiply in ways you couldn't have imagined. Not because the universe finally decided to reward you, but because you changed what you were observing. You changed the sphere of existence you were generating. You stopped waiting to discover your place in someone else's reality and started creating your own. This is the power your childhood gave you, the power to create instead of conform, to generate instead of accept, to observe reality into being instead of passively receiving what others tell you is real. And the wildest part, the most beautiful, stunning, revolutionary part? You've been doing this all along. You just didn't know it. You thought you were surviving, but you were training. training to become exactly what the quantum field needs. A conscious observer powerful enough to collapse wave functions intentionally. You are not damaged. You are prepared. You are not broken. You are quantum ready. You are not waiting to discover who you can be. You are creating it right now, in this moment, with every choice about where to place your awareness. So let me ask you, what are you ready to create? All right, so now you know. You understand that reality isn't something out there waiting to be discovered. It's something you're generating right now through observation. You understand that your childhood, as painful as it was, trained you to become a conscious creator instead of a passive receiver. But here's the question. What do you actually do with this? Because knowledge without application is just entertainment. And I didn't share this story to entertain you. I shared it to activate something in you, to shift you from unconscious observation to deliberate creation. So let's get practical. First, catch yourself in the act of observing. Start noticing where your attention goes throughout the day, not judging it, just noticing. Because wherever your focus consistently lands, that's what you're collapsing into reality. Are you observing lack, scanning for evidence that you don't have enough, aren't enough, will never be enough? Then that's the wave function you're collapsing. Or are you observing possibility? Looking for back doors, for unexpected opportunities, for signs that reality is more fluid than you thought, because that changes what becomes real. This isn't about positive thinking. This is about conscious observation, big difference. Second, ask yourself the questions that create new realities. Remember those questions I asked as a kid? If God made the world, who made God? Does this place exist if no one observes it? Those weren't just philosophical musings. They were reality-breaking inquiries. They shattered the static, objective worldview I'd been taught and opened up space for something new. So here are 3 questions I want you to sit with. 1. What reality am I accepting as fixed that might actually be fluid? Maybe it's your financial situation. Maybe it's your relationship patterns. Maybe it's your creative potential. Whatever it is, question the assumption that it's permanent. Because if you're observing it as unchangeable, you're collapsing it into that form. 2. Where am I waiting for permission that I don't actually need? Front doors are guarded for a reason. They're designed to keep most people out, but back doors exist. Side entrances exist. The question is, are you willing to find them? Or are you waiting for someone to invite you in? 3. What sphere of existence am I generating with my current emotional state? Because here's the thing. You can know all the quantum physics in the world, but if you're vibrating at the frequency of fear, doubt, unworthiness, that's the reality you'll collapse. The field doesn't care about your intellectual understanding. It responds to your energetic coherence. So do a check-in right now. What emotion are you holding? What frequency are you broadcasting? Because that's what's determining which version of reality you're experiencing. Third, commit to being the observer, not the observed. This is the shift from victim to creator. From why is this happening to me to what am I creating with my observation of this situation? When you get rejected, and you will because that's part of being human, don't ask, why don't they see my worth? Ask, what back door is this rejection pointing me toward? When circumstances seem impossible, and they will because that's what challenges do, don't ask, why is reality so hard? Ask, what reality am I creating by observing this as impossible? You are not the character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. You are not discovering a pre-written script. You are collapsing possibilities into actuality with every coherent observation. And finally, understand that this is not a one-time shift. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become a perfect conscious creator. This is a practice, a daily moment-by-moment practice of catching yourself, redirecting your focus, choosing which wave function to collapse. Some days you'll forget. You'll slip back into old patterns of passive observation. You'll wait for permission. You'll accept closed doors as final. That's okay. That's human. But now you know better. Now you have the awareness to course correct, to remember, I am the observer. I am generating my sphere of existence. I am not discovering reality. I'm creating it. And in that remembering, everything shifts. So let's circle back to where we started. You've been told you're not enough, that reality is fixed, that your circumstances define you, that you need to discover your place in a world that exists independently of you. But now you know the truth. Reality isn't a stage you walk onto, it's a field you collapse with your awareness. You are not a character in someone else's universe. You are the consciousness generating your own sphere of existence. That boy who got thrown out of Harvard? That was me learning that front doors aren't the only way in. That rejection isn't the universe saying no, it's the universe asking, are you committed enough to find another way? And every moment since then has been a practice of observation, of noticing where I place my focus, of choosing which reality to collapse into being, of understanding that I am not discovering who I can be. I am creating it, and you have the same power, the same training, the same quantum creative force running through your consciousness right now. Your childhood didn't break you. It prepared you. It forced you to become an observer, to generate your own reality, to stop waiting for permission and start creating opportunity. Now, this is the fourth installment in our Quantum Consciousness series, and we've gone deep into how you create reality through observation. But here's where it gets even more radical. In the next video, I'm going to show you something that'll completely flip everything we just discussed. Because if you're the observer creating reality, then who or what is creating the observer? What if the you that you think is making decisions isn't actually making them at all? What if your brain already knows what you're going to do 10 seconds before you think you've decided? I'm talking about experiments that prove consciousness might be the greatest illusion we've ever believed. Check the description for the playlist in the next video. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this landed, if something in you recognized the truth of what I'm sharing, drop one word in the comments that captures your energy right now. Just one word, not a paragraph, not an explanation. One word that represents where you are in this journey from passive observer to conscious creator. And if you're ready to go deeper into quantum consciousness, into biocentric reality, into the mechanics of what consciousness actually is, hit that subscribe button. Because what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew about who you are. You don't discover reality, you create it. And it's time to create yours intentionally. I'll see you in the next one.